If you've been wondering how much a funeral costs today, the truth may surprise you, and knowing what goes into the price can save you thousands of dollars. Let's keep this simple and talk about 2026 national averages, assuming that you are working with a funeral home, because that does tend to make things a lot easier. And in future videos, we'll look at lower cost options. I'm going to give you three common examples. First, a traditional funeral with burial. This includes a viewing, embalming, a casket, a vault or liner, transportation, and coordination with the cemetery. Nationally, a full burial like this typically runs around $8,000 to $10,000, and that's before factoring in cemetery fees, which can be a few $1,000s as well. So with everything, that can be $12,000 to $15,000. Second is going to be a funeral with cremation, but still having a memorial or service through the funeral home. Again, because they can make things a lot easier for a grieving family. There is no burial, plot, or vault in this scenario, but you're still paying for professional services, the use of facilities, and coordination. The two biggest cost reductions here are the fact that you're eliminating the casket and you're not paying cemetery fees like a plot, vault, or opening and closing costs. These two items alone often account for several $1,000s in a traditional burial, and it can effectively cut the cost in half. Now, this option usually comes in at around $6,000 to $7,000 on average, which is much more affordable than the full burial. Now, let's look at the lowest cost option while still having a meaningful service. This is where the funeral home handles the cremation, but the memorial or the service is still held at a church or community facility that doesn't charge any money for the use. When you remove the funeral home's chapel and viewing costs, this can reduce the total by several $1,000s compared to a traditional service. So with this approach, you can usually have a meaningful memorial for $2,000 to $4,000. Here's what a lot of families get caught off guard with. A large portion of the funeral bill is not the services, it's the merchandise and the fees. Things like the casket, urn, vault, transportation, and administrative costs add up very quickly. Here's one thing that many people don't know. By law, funeral homes must provide an itemized general price list before you agree to anything. You are also not required to buy a casket or an urn from the funeral home. You can purchase those from third-party sellers, often at a much lower cost. Always ask for an itemized pricing list and don't feel pressured into services that you don't want or don't need. Another important point is that prices can vary dramatically between funeral homes, even within the same city. Taking a little time to compare options can save thousands of dollars. The goal here is not to rush decisions, it's to understand your options to make a plan now for your family so that they can be prepared later. Funeral costs do not have to drain a lifetime of savings, but informed choices do matter. If you want help understanding these options or planning ahead with a final expense whole life insurance policy so your family isn't left guessing, feel free to reach out via Messenger because clear information makes all the difference, and follow this page for more helpful tips for seniors.